Joining us now, David Botkins. He's the spokesman for Dominion Energy. Actually, he's their director of media relations. He's basically the head press guy for the whole company. David Botkins joining us now. David, good to have you.
John, good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Okay, pretty interesting press conference yesterday. Your CEO and chairman was there. Mr. Farrell was there. Mayor Will Sessoms attended. Terry McGenius, our governor, was there. And you had a pretty big announcement from Dominion. Can you share some of the things you're doing with renewable energy with our audience?
Sure, John. It was a great day yesterday, and the announcement centered around offshore wind. After years and years of study and careful analysis by a lot of smart people, the decision was made to enter into a long-term partnership with an international company called Dong Energy. They used to be Dutch Oil Natural Gas. Now they just go by DONG Energy. They've got 22 wind farms all over Europe. They're the recognized global leader in constructing these wind farms. So we're going to move forward with 2 test turbines, a project that will be R&D, if you will, largely, but it will give us the chance to see whether or not the ocean currents and the marine life and the hurricane force winds and all the things that could challenge such a project, if we can get the 2 test turbines constructed and they can withstand the challenges that 27 miles off the coast will present, then that means we might be able to go forward with a larger scale build out in the future. But the hope is that these 2 turbines will be generating electricity by the end of the year 2020.
So this is kind of a down payment, if you will, on a much bigger initiative in the future. Virginia Beach Mayor Will Sessoms yesterday saying that this company Dong, who's big in Europe, as you mentioned, that their involvement, he says, promises to make Hampton Roads the quote unquote East Coast Silicon Valley hub for clean energy technologies. Now, just as a sidebar here, last month the Virginia Beach City Council adopted a resolution against exploring for oil and natural gas off its coast, that much to the chagrin of the Trump administration. So they're going to try to deal with that legally. But let me ask you this. 2 turbines, wind turbines, isn't going to mean anything. What would the vision be here? Let's say you do your R&D and it's like, you're generating type of energy that you think it could do. What would that mean? Like, give us the big picture here.
Well, in terms of the electricity that it would generate, it would be enough power. The electricity is measured in megawatts, and this is 2 6-megawatt turbines, 12 megawatts of output total. That's essentially enough to power 3,000 homes when it's at peak capacity, and that's just 2 turbines. If we were to do the full-scale build-out on the federal lease area, this is a lease that we competed for and have with the Bureau of Offshore Ocean Management, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, which is under the Secretary of Energy's office. If we do the full-scale build-out, it would be enough electricity to power 500,000 homes, and that's a considerable amount of electricity. So when you look at the turbines and the shipping and the business that would be done with the Port of Virginia, the job creation, the supply chain that right now is essentially non-existent in many ways on the East Coast with offshore wind, this would really give that whole burgeoning industry a shot in the arm. And I think that's why the mayor was so excited about it. I think that's why the governor was so excited about it, because, yesterday in many ways was an announcement of putting a man on the moon, and moving forward, it's going to get nothing but better in the future.
So when you look at turbine and what this one company is producing, which obviously they got a pretty high return. So if you look at this company and where they've had success, is there an area in Europe or Scandinavia where they can say, hey, we have implemented this to full capacity and it's generating, 20% of our energy somewhere?
Well, they are the global leader. They have 22 wind farms that are huge in scale all over Europe. They're headquartered in Denmark. They've got wind farms there. They are the best in the business. And when they came to us and said, we know Virginia's got this test project. They've been trying to get it off the ground. It hadn't been successful. We're going to come in with a financial bid offer with a cap on it so that there won't be cost overruns. We're going to do it for X amount of dollars. And we believe we can do that, and that was very attractive to us because the previous bids had been north of $350,000, $300 or $400 million to do this deal, and that was just too high. The all-in price for this project for the 2 test turbines is going to be $300 million total, and that's extremely competitive for this sort of scale of business. When you're looking at leasing barges and bringing turbines in from whatever vendor partner we end up selecting from all over the world. So it's really exciting. And I tell you, yesterday couldn't have been a more beautiful day. We were at the Portsmouth port location. Weather was great. The governor was excited. It was really a made-for-TV event.
So everybody knows if everything played out, I'm not sure I'm going to get my facts straight, but help me with it. But if everything played out, the farm that would be erected would be in an area of about 113,000 acres, right? So it's a big area. You're the high bidder, so you got the land, and it's one of the government's first auctions actually in this type of thing with leases. But if you got all these turbines up and you could generate in capacity wind turbines capable of generating 2,000 megawatts of electricity, or to put it in layman's terms, power 700,000 homes. If when it was all said and done, if things worked, that would be the goal, right?
Yep, that would be the goal, John. As we all know, the wind doesn't blow 24 hours a day, so it's a supplemental source of energy. It's not a primary source. But when you've got that many wind turbines and on that kind of scale, it really adds a lot of additional capacity to your overall grid system. And as you know, from having reported on it and discussed it in the past, renewable energy, more renewable energy, solar power, wind, we're looking at some hydro facilities in far southwest Virginia. We're adding more renewables to our overall generation mix, and that's just a very, very exciting thing. And I think even yesterday, our environmental opponents, we had a few folks who tend to be critical of the company. Were actually at the event yesterday, and they even were impressed and pleased that we're moving forward with this project, which I don't think they ever thought we were actually going to ever do.
Well, you're going to get the critics of somebody saying that grasshoppers will get caught in the turbine or something. You always get a critic for everything. But give us a sense so we can put this in perspective. 2 things. Everything goes right, it can power 700,000 homes. Like, that would be equivalent to what? Like Richmond and the whole, Central Virginia area, right? It's about 700,000.
It would be. That is a lot of people, and I think that just goes to show that on this kind of a scale, now it's going to take some time to get there. That scale is not going to happen overnight, but it's massive. I mean, it's the entire Richmond metro area and some of the surrounding counties. It's different pockets of the Commonwealth that have that sort of population center. The thing about electricity, though, is when it's put onto the grid, it sort of disperses and goes everywhere, so it's not particularly assigned to any given locality, but 700,000 homes is a lot.
So, and the approach you're taking is, look, you want to get your investment in renewables in the mix. That's part of the future, but you're using it as supplemental energy producer. So you got your primary things, but every megawatt that you can get to supplement that from a renewable takes the non-renewable down, right?
It does indeed. I mean, we're a combination of nuclear, of natural gas, of coal. Coal is still part of the mix, but renewable energy is growing in our overall supply. More and more of it is coming from the sun, and now we're adding wind to the mix. We've got partial interest in some onshore land-based wind farms in other states, but this will be the first true wind project in the Mid-Atlantic, and Virginia to be first again. We've been first in so many things here in the Commonwealth. It's a very exciting day to know that we're going to be moving forward with this sort of a project. I
think that makes perfect sense because, you can't abandon non-renewable energy because you wouldn't be able to power anything. So you can't abandon it. But I think supplementing what you have with this and the investment that you're making, which basically, too, I want to make sure everybody knows, part of this renewable energy investment was made as part of the 2015 rate negotiation that Frank Wagner did. And not that this thing was a part of it, but, that's got some investment in it, right? So that made sense. So, you guys are trying to get to a point to find ways to invest in renewable energy to decrease the dependence, obviously, on the non-renewables as you go forward. And like you say, there's other wind farm possibilities coming up in an area that's just on land that's not out in the middle of the ocean, right?
Absolutely. We're looking for all opportunities to meet the demand of our customers. Our goal is to have the safest, most affordable, most reliable electricity in the country, and we work hard every day to make sure that Virginia's homes and businesses are being powered reliably at an affordable rate, and that we're providing good service. And we think we're doing that, and we certainly are excited about the addition of this offshore wind project and what it means for economic development in the Hampton Roads area.
Okay, I've got a caller, David Botkins, who has texted in. I got a few questions here. Let me start with Den in Chesapeake, who says, would you please ask Mr. Botkins why nuclear never gets in the conversation? It's the most sensible of all alternatives, and France derives 90% of its energy from nuclear power. Where are we on that, Den in Chesapeake?
Yeah, nuclear is an extremely important part of our generation fleet. It's a zero carbon emissions. It's a 24/7 source. We're at about 38-40% of our generation is from nuclear. We've got a facility in Surry County, 2 nuclear units in Surry County, and then we have 2 nuclear units in Louisa County, Virginia, just off of Lake Anna. They are the workhorses. Nuclear is extremely important. I think that nuclear has gotten maybe a bad rap over the years because of some of the many years ago accidents that occurred, and certainly what happened in Fukushima, Japan, a few years ago was very unfortunate. So there are some negative connotations associated with nuclear, largely that are unfair and somewhat distorted. The reality is it's very important. We're a leader in the efficient production and use of nuclear energy, and we're always interested in keeping our eyes open about whether adding more nuclear to the mix here in Virginia would be a prudent thing to do.
All right, David. John in Richmond says his question is, wind is diffuse and intermittent and expensive per megawatt. Would you please ask David what a megawatt of power will cost compared to gas-fired powered? John in Chesapeake.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I can tell you that natural gas is certainly cheaper, and we use a lot of natural gas with our existing facilities. And as you know, we're in the midst of working to get the Atlantic Coast Pipeline permitted so that there can be more natural gas available. But with regards to wind per megawatt hour, yes, it is more expensive. That is for sure. But the costs of that are coming down, and that's why this test project, these 2 turbines that will produce 6 megawatts each, 12 megawatts total, it's why it's important to do this experimental R&D test project to create the supply chain amongst the businesses and the manufacturers and the others that will be a part of this industry. As more components are available here, as the industry grows and expands, prices come down. We've seen that with solar. Solar panels and solar energy is now becoming very, very price competitive, and that's why you see Dominion doing more of it. So we have to start somewhere with wind, and this is a great starting point. It is more expensive per megawatt hour, certainly compared to natural gas, but it's getting better, and we want to be on the front end of leading the way.
All right, David. Stan in Virginia Beach asks, would you please ask, are the windmills made in the United States?
There are international and some domestic turbine makers and blade makers and other components. We are going to partner with Dong to do RFPs and put all this out for bid so that we get the best value and the highest quality product. The project will be managed by the Dong folks. They're the experts. They know who makes the best stuff, and we're certainly going to trust their judgment while having oversight of the entire project. So we will be looking at all the vendor partners out there that can build certain components that we're going to need.
All right, David, Botkins almost out of time. Final question I've got from Amy. So we want to get one from Northern Virginia. I've actually got about 25. Amy from Fairfax says, will the employees that are constructing the windmills on the wind farms be United States citizens, being that it's offshore? Amy in Fairfax.
I would certainly expect that would be the case. I would certainly expect that there'll be a large number of folks from the Hampton Roads area that would be eligible and qualified for this sort of construction work. Yes, it's specialized, but you've got a lot of ex-military and other maritime employees and residents of that part of the state that would be great employees for this project. Dong will make most of those decisions, but we'll certainly be encouraging American hires.
All right, David, Botkins, we're out of time. A lot of caller interest, so I appreciate that. Thank you, David Botkins, the major spokesperson for Dominion Energy. For more information, you can go to dominionenergy.com. That's dominionenergy.com. David, thanks for being with us. Thanks for that illuminating dialogue, and we look forward to lots of megawatts from wind and everything else you guys are up to. Thanks for elaborating on that, David.